iba't ibang grupong di umano ng mga indigenous people, ipinotesta ang umano'y mga gawa-gawang kaso laban sa kanila. My God. Ako pa naman, I really have a heart for
Indigenous
people,
IPs.
the IPRA.
Bakit sila kinakasuhan?
Hindi ko nga alam. Okay, let's learn about this further. On the line right now is Global Coordinator, Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination
Bongga.
and Liberation, Beverly Longid. Good morning po.
Good morning.
Good morning, Attorney Jess and Attorney Bruce at sa ating mga tagapakinig sa inyong programa
Yes
ngayong
po.
umaga.
Ma'am, of course, you are representing the Lumads, and ako, ma'am, I'm very close to Lumad, to the Lumad because I grew up with knowing many Lumads, mga Bilaan po, mga Bogobo in Mindanao. So, ang question ko po, ano po itong sinasabi nilang bakit po nagpo-protesta at ano pong nangyayari? Bakit may ganitong klaseng kasuhan, may ganitong klaseng instances?
Okay, una, hindi po ako Lumad, I'm Igorot. I'm Bontoc Kankanay from
Okay.
the Cordillera,
Yes.
pero yung
Lumad.
ating organization ay binubuo ng iba-ibang
Yes.
indigenous
Coalition.
groups that include the Lumad.
Yes.
Yung ginawa po naming activity nung Lunes sa DOJ,
Opo.
one was to submit several documents sa Department of Justice in relation po dito sa prescription petition na
Okay.
final ng DOJ against the CPP-NPA.
Ito yun.
Na included kasi doon sa list of so-called alleged members
Terrorism.
and officers ng CPP-NPA are several indigenous peoples leaders na members ng aming mga organization sa Cordillera at saka sa Mindanao.
Ma'am Beverly, bakit ba sinasama or nasasama inadvertently ba or intentionally ang mga indigenous people natin dito sa terror list or sa alleged proscription list?
Ang tingin namin, this is intentional. In fact, they admitted
Oh.
na talagang sinadya naman talaga nila to name
Why?
several individuals dito. Sabi ng AFP, it's based on intelligence reports. But as to what intelligence reports yung sinasabi nila, wala kaming alam. Kasi, in fact, we were just informed about this nung lumabas na siya sa
media.
sa dyaryo na meron ngang ganitong petition at included yung aming mga pangalan.
Tsaka tama po ba, Ma'am Beverly, na parang binobomba yung mga IP schools or Lumad schools ng military dahil di umano part kayo or part yung sino mang inaakyusahan nila ng CPP-NPA?
Yes,
daw.
that's true. In fact, most of yung militarized communities sa buong bansa are largely indigenous communities, from Cordillera, from Luzon, even in the Visayas and in Mindanao. Kasi tandaan natin na marami kasi sa mga nangyayaring mga protesta sa mga pamayanan ng mga katutubo ay hinggil sa mga maraming mga mapanirang proyekto like mining, energy projects na dams or geothermal yan, or iba pang mga land conversion activities like plantation. At kunwari dito sa Central Luzon,
Hala.
may tinatawag nilang Clark Green City, which is basically gentrification at pagbibuild ng mga infrastructures that would also affect indigenous people's communities.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
ang tanong ko naman po is regarding doon sa regarding dito sa Lumad, sa mga Lumads in relation to the BBL. The Bangsamoro Basic Law, kasi alam natin na parte sila. Ang Lumad ng Mindanao ay parte nung BBL, nung formation ng BBL. What do you think of that?
I think yung ilan, many of the indigenous people's constituency in Mindanao, I think were not consulted as far as the provisions of the law is concerned.
Okay.
Yung basic lang naman na hinihingi dyan is a clear recognition of ancestral land rights, that would involve ownership, management, and utilization of ancestral land.
So
Ang
basically,
problema kasi natin, that's not even so clear on us
Mentioned
to
clearly.
its definition of ancestral lands at paano yung management and utilization ng lupa.
Hindi ba-
Pangalawa, malaki kasing debate dyan kasi most of the resources that we have are located in indigenous people's territories.
which is not part of the of the Bangsamoro area. Tama po ba?
Magkaiba kasi, although ang mga Lumad at ang mga Moro would share common problems as far as discrimination, militarization, pero magkaiba yung concept at hindi
Magkaiba.
necessarily one and the same yan.
So so you are of the opinion na na dapat hindi sila kasama doon sa Bangsamoro Basic Law because they will only be would that be parang a reason for them to be more discriminated because number one, most of them are Christians, and number two, the locations of their ancestral lands are not even within the Bangsamoro area.
Mm. I think what is needed is ang tawag nito a law that would recognize both rights, rights of both people, the lumad
Balance.
and the Moro. Dapat hindi pinaglalaban yan ang mga lumad at ang mga Moro.
Tama.
Hindi ba
Pangalawa, kasi yan it's largely if you look even at the law, the ownership still of the resources and the land rests with government. Wala talagang tunay na pagkilala dun sa karapatan ng mga Moro at sa
Regalian
mga
doctrine.
lumad.
Dahil sa Regalian doctrine yan, ma'am eh.
Yes, it's still there. It's still there. Kaya, kumbaga, meron lang siyang sinasabing kikilanan din, but subject to national law, di ba? Subject to national interest.
Regulated.
So, it gives, but it takes it back with another hand, di ba?
Ma'am Beverly, balikan ko yung sa DOJ. Nag-rally po kayo sa harap ng DOJ. Ano po ba yung ina-expect nyo na si Secretary Maynardo Guevara i-withdraw yung mga petition for the prescription? Or ano po ba? Anong inaasahan nyo, ma'am, sa rally na yun?
Well, kasama dun kasi din sa sinadmit namin were several statements and petitions also signed by individuals that will attest na una, hindi kami terorista.
Correct.
Kami ay aktivista. Yung ganyan. At pangalawa, walang basis yung ganung petition. In fact, some of the the incidents that we named in the petition happened before I was born, di ba?
Hello.
Ganyan. So dapat lang, ang hinihingi namin from DOJ is to dismiss the petition.
Tama.
Kasi it puts kami nandun sa petition in danger, including of course yung aming mga pamilya at mga kasama sa trabaho. And it becomes even more dangerous kasi din sa nakaraang 2 days ago na conference on terrorism in the UN, the Philippine government still asserts na tutuloy yung proscription petition, and they assert that those who are named in that petition are terrorists.
Natatakot ba kayo, ma'am, na may red tagging or parang red scare na ito CPP NPA, so ayun nga may negative stereotype na naman, or baka worse, may military actions or what?
Yes, of course, definitely. Kasi ito nga, di ba, sunod-sunod yung pagpatay sa mga
Oh my
parents who are
God.
very active on environmental issues and indigenous peoples, ngayon pati mga mayor. At dati rin naman na ang dami na naming kasong hinarap in relation to extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances and other trump-up charges.
Ma'am.
So kasi it's not simply, Attorney Bruce, it's not simply red tagging. They're really saying that we are terrorists.
Yeah, not
Hindi lang
just
sa
red tagging.
simpleng,
Attorney Jess po, mama.
Ma'am,
Attorney Jess.
yeah, ma'am, ako naman Attorney Bruce
Ayan,
naman
si Attorney Bruce
magtatanong.
na.
Ma'am,
Okay.
of course there is a say, mayroon kayong allegations regarding that. Sa palagay niyo po ba, ma'am, it is done by by the government or the people who feel na parang that they have more rights to the ancestral lands, kasi alam naman po natin that yung mga mining companies na that they will resort to to trying to scare off the lumads.
The petition is definitely was filed by government.
Yes.
At inaamin naman nila, in fact, it's the Department of Justice
O, yun nga.
itself who filed the case. But we think this is a part of their concerted and systematic effort to, siyempre, to stop, or curtail civil liberties and to stop protests that are happening on the ground in relation to these projects that are destructive, that are initiated or even in fact sponsored by government.
So parang ang sinasabi niyo po, ma'am, is that kaya kayo inano ng DOJ is because parang it's a way for them to actually stop you from doing your protest. Tama.
Yes, exactly. It's to criminalize dissent, to criminalize resistance, and probably
pero
to harass
tinutulungan
other
nila kayo.
people to be critical.
Pero
Yes?
tinutulungan nila kayo to file these cases. Tama po?
Tinutulungan ba kayo
Alin?
ng gobyerno, ma'am? To...
Ng DOJ?
Alin?
Ng DOJ? Is the DOJ helping you out? No.
No, definitely the DOJ will not help us because they are the petitioners in this case.
You're rallying against DOJ, di ba? Tama po ba, ma'am?
Oo.
Okay.
Sana marinig kayo ni Secretary Maynardo Guevara kasi kay
Oo.
Sister Patricia Fox naman, ma'am. Di ba?
Tinulungan
Nag-ano naman siya. Eh.
oo.
Oo.
Hopefully we can get
Let's hope for the best.
a more positive response from the
Reaction.
government. Ma'am, thank you
Well,
po. Thank you po, ma'am. Wala
Hopefully
na
na mabasa ni Secretary yung aming final na document
Ayun.
because that includes resolutions of local government units in the Cordillera that would attest that they know us
Attesting.
personally, they know the organizations that we
Bongga.
belong to at hindi kami terorista,
Yan.
and several statements all over the world
Okay.
in relation to that prescription petition.
Okay.
Thank
More
you po, ma'am. More
power.
power, ma'am. Mabuhay
Yes,
po
thank you,
ang
Attorney
mga...
Bruce and Attorney Jess.
Yes, mabuhay po ang
That
IPRA.
was-
Mabuhay po ang indigenous peoples of the Philippines.
That
Salamat
was
po.
Beverly Longid, Global Coordinator, Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination and Liberation. Bonggang grupo.
no? Parang ano lang parang...
Tsaka yung title ni Mama, Global Coordinator.
At saka loka-kaloka ka sa liberation, di ba? Parang ano
For
baka naman
self-determination
sana
and
baguhin,
liberation.
sana baguhin nila yung liberation. Kasi yung liberation yung nagbibigay ng
ng
red
medyo,
tagging.
ng parang secession, parang
Oo.
rebellion,
Yes. Yun kasi minsan...
Pwede ba ng LGBT movement ma-liberate na from the HIV epidemic?
Oo,
Char?
yun pwede yun.
Oh,
Okay, at
pwede?
dito po. Sana. Makinig ang DOH, kaso nananakaw nga
Ang gusto ko kay President Duterte kasi siya gusto niyang i-implement ang RH law fully.
Oo.
So President Duterte, wag mo nang awayin yung church. Tama na, awayin mo na ipa-implement yung RH law. Yun.
Paano naman nila mapapa-implement yung RH law? Isip ka nga.
Ha? Si President?
Mag-isip ka nga sa mga sa Catholic Church kung kaya nila na mag-distribute ng
Yung mga
condom.
dilawan kasi na Catholic Church eh.
Okay, at this point, thank you po.
Charot,
At dito
charot
po
lang
Ayun din, DDS na. At dito po nagtatapos
Bakit si Chris?
ang 2 oras
Nang Boljakan.
ng Boljakan. At i-like nyo po ang Facebook